Hazard pay is now guaranteed to all American citizens after endangering their ears to listen to Larry Kudlow talk for 10 minutes this morning. Good afternoon. This is LALATE. Boy, hazard pay qualifications just broadened after we all listened to Larry Kudlow this morning. We are now working in a hazardous environment. This is Afternoons LALATE. Hope you're good and safe. Thank you for joining me. Afternoons LALATE is every day at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. Hazard pay is always at 4, and then we go to FPUC at 4:30. Finally, rent assistance at 5 o'clock. Big developments on hazard pay overnight as new indications suggest where the fate of hazard pay is landing. Where's your accent from? You have a strange accent. Hazard pay has new future and hope, and I don't just mean the people who listened to Larry Kudlow this morning. There is new suggestions as to what's going to happen with the second stimulus package that has hazard pay in it. It's going to court. It's going to court as early as Monday morning. An adjudication by temporary emergency injunction order could be issued quickly thereafter. Let me get right to the details, and I have them right here. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Larry Kudlow, of course, were among the people talking this morning, and the president spoke late yesterday about what's happening next. The issue is the constitutionality of 4 executive orders issued by the president on Saturday from his golf club, and whether or not they give the second stimulus check relief that is owed to American citizens, and whether it's actually even constitutional. First of all, let's cut to the chase. It's not. I mean, it's just, is that really Nene's hair? No. It's a wig. It's a weave. It's a wig. So it's like, come on. We all know it's not constitutional. And the president was asked this question, why are you doing stuff that seems on its very face to be unconstitutional? And he simply said what I predicted, and a lot of people commented yesterday about, especially for the hazard pay video, was that they think this is just a ploy by the president to get people to negotiate and a ploy to get them to the table. That's ultimately great news. And when the great news about this is that I have a comment from Nancy Pelosi minutes ago that says, hey, we're going back to negotiation on Monday. Yeah, hallelujah. Nancy and Stevie are spending a full hardship pay 2 hours of their time as essential workers of the American government, American people, 2 hours of difficult, grueling time to renegotiate the second stimulus package to get your hazard pay. They're going back in on Monday. Now, we don't know when and where, but Nancy said, we have to, and that's why we're willing to say we're willing to come down $1 trillion. The first part of the sentence is important. The second part of the sentence is important. First, she confirms they're going to negotiate. Now, I hope you're only listening to me and not listening to those other people that do this on YouTube. But someone who does this was reading questions and comments by Nancy on Friday before the talks fell apart that look really optimistic. Well, those aren't quotes since the negotiations fell apart. But this is a quote to Dana Bash on CNN this morning, which everyone watched. Dana Bash was trending for hours. So congratulations to her for rolling her eyes better than any moment that Candy Burris could ever do it. She just rolled those eyes and gave side eye and everything when she heard craziness coming out of Kudlow's mouth. But Nancy and Stevie are going to negotiate on Monday. And the great news is the second part of the sentence, that we are willing to come down $1 trillion. Now, if you watched my hazard pay video on Saturday, then you understand why that sentence is such great news. What takes a reduction of $1 trillion in the second stimulus package is the removal of what? Not hazard pay. Hazard pay is not $1 trillion. Hazard pay doesn't cost that much money. Hazard pay is not $1 trillion. It's the bailouts of states. The bailouts of states is first revealed I don't want to call it exclusively, but in depth anyway, I don't see anyone else talking about it. Detailed in depth was on this channel on Friday when I said the negotiations fell apart because the president and the Republicans didn't want to bail out states. The viewers of this channel didn't want to bail out states, but Nancy Pelosi wanted to bail out states and seemed to think that people weren't grasping that that's why the negotiations fell apart. She ultimately had to really cough up to the reality of the situation when she issued a statement to her party on Friday saying this is what fell apart, and I'll give you the dollar value of why it fell apart. There it was. It was the bailout to states. It came after the president said we're not going to bail out states. It came after the Republicans said we don't want to bail out states, and it came after the viewers of this channel said, hey, we have an urgent situation. We're working as essential workers right now. We're on the front line. We're nurses. We're grocery store workers. Or we were working those jobs just a few weeks ago and have been laid off. We need our money. We need our money. We are urgent. Why are we bailing out states who can go get money from the Federal Reserve, from the Main Street Lending Program, which I've detailed extensively on this channel? Jerome Powell is sitting there ready to lend for you. He created it for the states. It actually is created for the municipalities. Go get a loan. Why are you asking for free grant money that comes to the American citizens and tying up their stimulus checks and tying up their hazard pay? It's so obvious. And so Nancy appears to have had that awakening, that enlightenment, that epiphany that I hoped, as I recorded on Saturday, that she would. The question is whether Mark Meadows, who is half dead from left ear to right ear, will have the same when he realizes you cannot negotiate through threatening executive orders that are unconstitutional. And nor can you get your way by kicking furniture unless you're Teresa Great Eyes try to get your way with Carolyn Manzo. It doesn't work. And so the great news is that what's going to happen on Monday is you're going to see a very swift movement of litigation. People have asked me because no one explains this to viewers, and it's just, I understand this is a little bit like overwhelmingly too dramatic for just give me the damn check. I mean, really, do I have to endure war and peace? Do I have to endure, a dynasty or or a Falcon Crest episode to just get a friggin' ass check? It's so ridiculous, and it really is. And yet I am here to report it to you. And those that say, just tell me when I'm getting the check. Okay, the point is you're not getting the check tomorrow, but I got to tell you everything else is happening. And so Chuck Schumer said that basically what's going to happen is it's going to go right to litigation. And it's ironic because on Friday I said it's going to go to litigation. And I had a quote from Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi that bragged about how they had won litigation against the Republicans that day. So yeah, this is sort of what they do for their kicks. They just sort of sue each other and invalidate each other's orders while you sit around waiting for your check. I'll leave that to the attorney, says Chuck Schumer minutes ago. It doesn't do the job. It's not going to the effect in most places for weeks and months because there's such a crazy thing. The event of the country club is just what Trump does, a big show, but it doesn't do anything. And the American people look at the executive orders and they don't come close to doing the job, he told ABC this morning. Nancy Pelosi said much the same thing. She said that she's actually consulted with her constitutional department. Yeah, they have a department not to get you checks, but to determine constitutionality of other people's actions. Wow. You see where our tax dollars go. Mitch McConnell probably has a department to give him chicken as well. Nancy Pelosi says, well, the facts is that whether they are legal or not takes time to figure out. And I associate my remarks with the Senator Ben Sasse, who says they're unconstitutional slop. Right now we want to address the needs of the American people. And my constitutional advisors tell me they're absolutely unconstitutional. You're paid for those constitutional advisors. And hopefully those constitutional advisors ramp up very quickly and get the constitutionality adjudicated very quickly so you get your hazard pay. What you need to understand for hazard pay, and I've gotten some questions and comments overnight, is a hazard pay is not one of those quick check items. It is not, and I want to be imperatively clear to you, because when we talk about stimulus checks, which can land in your bank account in 7 days, I mean, that's really great news. We talk about eviction moratorium that can happen overnight, literally that minute. When we talk about hazard pay, it is something that's slow. It's slow. So please don't sit and think that hazard pay can land in your bank account tomorrow, or that hazard pay can land in your bank account next week. I actually fear that hazard pay is going to be one of these things that sort of drags on for days and days and days and days and weeks, not because of Nancy and Chuck or Stevie and Mark, but because of your employer. Viewers have asked me, how soon can I get my $10,000 hazard pay? Will I get it next week? No. I mean, if it became a law next week, your employer has to apply for it, has to get the money, and then has to give it to you, and you have to hope the employer does it. So there's a lot of things involved with hazard pay. I've had a lot of viewers that sort of think that hazard pay is a free handout. I don't want to say it disrespectfully, but sort of like a free handout, and it's not. Hazard pay is for people who work the front line, and I have the viewers of this. So some people say, I stayed at home and I helped my mom. Can I get some hazard pay for that? No, I mean, come on. I appreciate you did that for Mom. We all would do that for our mom, but that's not $10,000 from the federal government. It's not. For someone who works in a grocery store, yes, you're hazard pay. For someone who works in a pharmacy, yes, that's hazard pay. Trucking and shipping, yes, that's hazard pay. Uber and Lyft, yes, that's hazard pay. Taxi driver, yes, that's hazard pay. Aerospace, everything with aerospace, yes, that's hazard pay. Everything for nautical and maritime, all hazard pay. Everything with grocery stores, in the grocery store, all hazard pay. A lot of people of this channel qualify for hazard pay, but I want you to understand that even though we talk about the great numbers of hazard pay, $10,000, $5,000, it's a lot of money, it's owed to you, I don't want you to think it's going to come in the next week or two. It's just not. It takes some time. It's sort of like my EIDL loan viewers. When this channel launched on April 25th, I had people who had started to the EIDL process and knew they were either due, $10,000 or $20,000 or $150,000. And I told them, have patience because it's not coming to you quickly. And some of them really held that patience, and some of them got that money, but it took time. So I don't want you to think that hazard pay is a quick fix and a quick deposit of cash. It's not. Stimulus check will be. I promise you. Eviction moratoriums will be quick relief, I promise you, but this one is not. FPUC will be quick as well. Once they finally figure it out, it will. Presumably the states get their computer systems to work, but hazard pay will just be slow. Ultimately, what I want you to understand is keep track of your hours. It's so important because throughout this entire mess, you may just sort of want to say, hey, enough already. I'm just going to forget about it. Well, don't forget your hours. So if you have pay slip stubs and you don't want to think about it because it's sort of stressful, put them aside, but don't throw them away. You need to keep track of your hours. And you may not want to do the calculation of the hours now. You may think it's too stressful. Or you may not want to address the subject matter of your boss yet. You may think that they're about to bite your head off. But just keep the documentation. I urge you, it's so important, keep the documentation, your receipts, anything you have that documents how many hours you work from January to the present, because ultimately this is going to be the big bonanza for you, the great news to get that hazard pay when we get through this. We will get through it and you will get hazard pay, is how all the dominoes appear to be lined up. Coming up next on Afternoons LA Late is FPUC. A week ago, we were on a Monday recording, we were at 130,000 subscribers. We're about to reach 160,000 today. My new goal for all of us as a great family, because we really are a wonderful family, is to reach 200,000 subscribers in the next 2 weeks. I think we can do it. So if you have not gone to the front of this channel, hit that subscribe button and that alert button on the right. It's very important to hit it because all these stories are very time of the essence stories, not just the recording, but the ability for me to update you by the community messages, which you really are getting. You're responding. I was like 300 comments to each of them. Executive orders issued, here it is. Nancy Pelosi is going to court, here it is. I'm not saying she has, but let's say that happens on Monday morning. I can send you alerts, so you literally have a mechanism for us to communicate very, very quickly, separate and apart from when I'm recording. You'll know something the minute it happens. It's really, really a great environment. As always, coming up next is FPUC, and then Rent Assistance. Stay informed, stay educated, stay smiling, and stay evaluated for more.